welcome to the Sportsline Podcast on the CHCH media platform. I'm Bubba O'Neill. Friends, I'd certainly like to begin with something that is very important. It is September the 30th, which is our National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. We acknowledge that we at CHCH here on Innovation Drive are within the treaty lands and territory of the Mississaugas, the Credit First Nation. As part of the city of Hamilton, we are also situated among the traditional territories of the Neutral and Haudenosaunee on land which is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We thank the Mississaugas of the Credit and our First Nations neighbors for sharing this land with us, and we commit ourselves to listening, learning, celebrating, and developing respectful and meaningful relationships with one another. Let's have a great day, folks. Today, it's one of those days in the sports world where all it's going on because Mondays are generally reserved for the likes of the Sportsline Square Off. And this is the fella that I think I like squaring off with the most. I mean, there's just something about this cat. Let's bring him in. Morning Live co-anchor, Tim Bolen. I love when you were on the show. It's just something about your opinions. And I think we see things that many the same way and also have some very diverse, again, we use that word diverse, opinions. So thanks for joining us, bud.
I like that. There's something about this cat.
There's just something about this cat.
Not sure about this cat. Yeah, there's a topic coming up down the list that I have opinions on that differ from your opinions. And when I put those opinions out last week, the first email I got was from you, and you're just like, Monday, square off, me and you.
And the hilarious thing is we've discussed this topic before. Yeah. We really have, and now there's actually a reason to talk about it, but we'll get to it. Okay. Hey, let's get right to it, folks, because there is so much to talk about, and I think really it's that time of year where a lot is going on. So we'll talk about it. How do you feel, Blue Jay fans? You finished the season with 74 wins, lowest win total since winning 67 in 2019. It has been, at least in my opinion, and a professional opinion, one of the most disappointing seasons we've seen in some time. Tim Bolen, I know you're a huge baseball fan. You make your way down to the ballpark. You spend your hard-earned money for a good time, but also to see good baseball. Your feelings on this season?
No, I haven't even watched a game. I stopped watching, which is a real bummer. I was having an argument with my dad, who's like kind of a casual baseball fan, but he's been continuing to watch. I just didn't care. I just didn't like the team. There was nothing about them that was likable besides Vladdy. Like, that's the only thing you come out of this season, and you're just like, okay, at least Vladdy made a name for himself, because we weren't really sure even going into the season. I think we had this discussions on this very square off, saying like, okay, what's Vladdy going to bring this season? Well, we know what he brought. We know that he is a marketable player. They need to lock him up. But like, did the season go by the wayside when they didn't get Shohei Ohtani? Like, was that just something hanging over the franchise the entire year? I don't know. As a fan, I know it was, because you see what he's doing in LA, and you just think what could have been of him being here.
If that's the case, I'll use the word pathetic. If that is what we're leaning on as fans, as an organization, that yes, they kind of went all in. To be honest, even if they went all in on Shohei Ohtani, they couldn't in their wildest of dreams thought that they were one of the favorites to land him, especially when they knew who they were competing with in the LA Dodgers and all the opportunities that were there for Shohei. They made a couple of moves to start the season, but I also think a lot of eyes are on the management. But boy, Tim, the players sucked for a long, including Vladdy, until the All-Star break.
Yeah. Listen, like he has the best number. I think I don't know all the numbers, but I know he had some of the best numbers in the league in the second half of the season, and the numbers that he put up were pretty impressive. What I was saying, I was trying to get back to this Ohtani thing. I don't want to stick on this, but like, to not have another plan in place to like what was plan B, to put all your chips into the middle and then not have something to back that up. We saw Chris Bassett talking about that. You know what I mean? Like he feels the same way. But then things just didn't go right. You know what I mean? Look at the bullpen. They were just a mess. And injuries was an issue.
Yep.
Because, listen, last year, injuries weren't an issue. And they made it to the playoffs, and then then flaked out in the wild card round. So you knew like something was going to happen with injuries, because it always does when it comes to pitching, and we saw that this year. So
what do you do going forward?
Well, you signed Vladdy. And I would try and sign Vladdy sooner rather than later, because then if you want to attract other free agents, Juan Soto, then at least you could say, well, we have Vladdy locked up for the next decade. You know what I mean? So you have to lock him down and move on from there. Obviously, you have to get bullpen help. You probably need maybe another starter.
This costs money. Or you're going to make deals.
Yeah, you can make deals. You know who I might trade, to be honest, that you would get something for? Dalton Varsho. You know what I mean? Like he's a very, very talented defender.
One of the best.
He should get a Gold Glove. I know his position changed a little bit this year, so it's unfortunate if he doesn't get it. But I think you can maybe get something for him. He's had struggles at the plate. We know what he is at the plate now, having to see him for 2 seasons. So maybe you'll be able to get something for him, because you got a lot of young guys too. But the young guys are meh. I don't know, like meh. And you're not making the playoffs with meh. You need something. And listen, Bo had the worst year of his career. You have to expect you're not training Bo. You're not trading Bo in the offseason because you're not getting it.
Hold on a second.
You're not getting anything for him.
Tim, you want it all then. I mean, you want Juan Soto. I mean, you're being very incognito about that, right?
Well,
you want him.
Well, you
want to sign Vladdy, and you're saying you want to keep Bo. Like is Rogers prepared to do all of this?
Well, I'm saying,
then improve the bullpen and improve the pitching staff?
Well, I'm saying you want to get Juan Soto, but they would fall second in line to the Mets or the Yankees in that. You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to get them. Well, you're not trading Bo. Well, you're going to trade Bo this offseason? You're going to trade Bo? No.
Can you keep both?
You got to keep both.
Can you? Okay.
You got to keep both. You're not signing Bo in the offseason. He had his worst season. Are not trading Bo because you're selling low.
No, for sure.
So you can't be doing that. But Rogers has money. Like, we're not concerned. Why are we always concerned about them spending money? They have the money to spend.
Well, because they have a budget.
Yeah,
they have a budget.
I guess. But, like, I don't know. What do you think maybe they don't spend? And, like, because what's going to happen to the two of them? Shapiro. He's got a year left. Are they going to keep him?
Well, I don't think they're going anywhere
because they're making money. Because they're making money.
You're right.
They were top 10. They were the top 10 still after the horrible season in attendance this year. That's not going to happen next year if they don't make any moves.
Well, fans got to smarten up.
I know friends personally that are not renewing their season tickets, and they've had season tickets for over a decade. Mm-hmm. And that's going to be a
because of the performance of the team or the cost of the ticket.
Well, a little bit of both. That is a good point.
It's so expensive.
Well, because you might pay that if it's a good product.
Right.
You're not paying that when it's that product.
Did you expect playoffs this year?
Yeah.
Wow.
Listen, what's the difference in the team? They had a very, very similar team. With that pitching staff, very similar team to what they had last year when they made the playoffs.
You know, and I think we all kind of like, that's it. Like getting the likes of Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, who ended up being one of the better players for the team until he was, dealt off, rightfully so, at the trade deadline, along with some of the other guys that were going to be impending free agents. But
last place? Who said they were going to be last place? Nobody. Last place? But, like, do we care that they get swept by the Marlins at the end of the season? No, we don't care. It doesn't matter. But you got some heavy lifting to do this offseason.
It was ugly down the stretch. Like, did they even score runs? Like, every time shutout, 1 run, blown out by the Marlins at home.
Yeah.
The Red Sox had the last laugh. No, it wasn't good.
Yeah.
What has been kind of fun to watch is the Hamilton Tiger Cats, and they go into Vancouver on a Friday night, play a late game by Eastern Standard Time with a 7:30 BC Pacific start. So their clocks are all messed up, and they beat the Lions in overtime to keep their very faint postseason hopes alive with 3 games remaining in the regular season. Tim, what impressed you? I know the start time didn't impress.
It
didn't impress you.
Hands up who stayed up for it. Goodness. What time did it end at?
I would say probably 1:45-ish maybe would be my guess.
For us morning show guys on a Friday. Even with the nap.
4 games in a row. 4 wins in a row.
Yeah. So a couple of things. And you have a bit more insight on this, just being so close, much closer to the team. Where has this been all season? What has been the difference in this team this past 4 games, ever since Labor Day? Well, they always say the season starts on Labor Day. You do want to get some wins before Labor Day.
And that's why that statement is the dumbest statement. I don't know why we keep saying that, because what the Tiger Cats did this season proves that the season does start in the beginning and the end of June.
Now, saying this though, if they do get in, I wouldn't want to face them. You know what I mean? Look at the Alouettes last year. You get hot at the right time, and you can reel off wins, and that can go right to lifting a Grey Cup over your head. Now, too little, too late. It sure is looking like it. But what is the difference? Is it Chris Jones?
I think it is.
What? The defensive coach makes all the difference?
I mean, look at their turnover ratio was in the negatives in their first 10 games without him, and it's leading the league now ever since. And not only turnovers, the amount of sacks and just to the visual eye, the ability to tackle, which is something you would think they should be able to do, but their tackling was horrendous for the first 10 games. And I say this with all due respect to Mark Washington, who will be a defensive coordinator again. And he was also the defensive coordinator of the Tiger Cats in 2019 when they won 15 games. Right. Something had gone stale there, their approach. But Chris Jones has come in there and he has found some talent. He has made some positional changes, kept some the same, but his scheme is a completely different scheme that's working. And yes, and I think what happens is, because we always say this, is that football is a complementary game, and that for the defense or the offense to work better, the defense, and the defense, because they're not on the turf all the time, it doesn't put the offense at such a stress level. We got to score 35 points to even win. Everything's changed with this team, and it's fun to watch. And they're attacking teams, and everyone's talking about it around, other teams. Obviously because of the jobs that we have, I listen to the pregame comments of teams, and they're like, Hamilton is playing hard football, and they're scary to play right now. So
even like the second half, because they looked awful in the first half, what I saw, and then it was reminiscent of what you saw earlier in the season. And earlier in the season, like Bo just overthrowing guys, drop passes, like it was just all too familiar. It was like, oh, okay, here we go again. We're back to it. That was a nice 3-game little clip, and we're back to it. And then in the second half, they're able to turn that around. And so what happens there? What happens in the locker room to go into that second half and produce those kind of results, specifically in the fourth quarter, scoring 18 points, forcing overtime, and then getting the overtime win? Is that pass interference, by the way?
Well, I thought it was.
Okay,
I thought it was.
Like in that moment,
Glenn Suter lost his mind.
Yeah,
who I've known for many years, and he played the position as a safety. I've never heard him so vocal against something, but I thought it was. I think anytime you grab someone's shirt like that and you're kind of not looking at the ball, and he goes down, right?
But that's what's changed about our modern game now, too, right? Because the whistles do not come out of the pockets if there was no reviews, let's say 5 years ago, you know what I mean? And the Ticats lose that game, you know what I mean? So that is the change. But at the same time, you have to be good. You have to be lucky, and there's a little bit of luck involved in this.
For sure.
Destiny of them continuing to win games. Now we look at it. I know Radley had a piece, and he kind of laid it all out in the spec too. And they got to win all 3 of their games and get some help. Honestly, because everybody else is winning now too.
Yeah. I'll tell you what hurt is 2 weeks ago when the Argos went to BC and put a real good stinker on them. And that, no one really, no one expected Hamilton to go into BC and win. They got their own issues. I'll tell you that right now, in my opinion, right? And they're even talking about it in Vancouver about what's going on with this team, right? Especially a team that's going to host a Grey Cup. I just like the mental approach. There was obviously some halftime adjustments, and we say that word very loosely. Yeah. But the players would never use it, Tim, as an excuse. But when your body clock, and they had traveled out there on Thursday, and your game was on Friday, and your game starts at 7:30 local time, which to our time is you're starting to play a football game at 10:30 at night. That could have been the reason why they look so out of sync, and then there was probably a couple of words exchanged in the locker room saying, guys, our season's on the line right now, and at least if our season's on the line, we should go down fighting, not like this. And then they take the opening, they get the opening possession, and they march down the field and score a touchdown, and like, hey, here we go.
It's just a shame if they don't make the playoffs on the season that Bo is putting together. That's going to be a shame. You know what I mean? Because if they do make the playoffs, he should be MLP.
Well, I'm going to ask you this here.
Yeah.
Is there like he is? I think 7 or 8 touchdown passes ahead of everyone else. He's, I think, 700 yards in terms of yardage, like over every. Like, is there a world where a team can't make the playoffs? And I'm thinking about all sports now.
You're thinking about Mike Trout. Winning MVP. I don't. Not in the CFL. I don't think. Not in the CFL. Have we ever seen that before?
Not to my knowledge.
Well, listen, there's no standout. That's the only thing. There's no standout for the MLP. Like it's a wide open race. Like.
You know what? If it's not a wide open race, if the Ticats are in a playoff position,
sure. That's what I mean.
Right?
Yeah.
So
that's what I mean. So. I don't know. It's
one of those, and again, now it gets down to the most valuable player to his team, most outstanding player in the league. It's the definition of the actual award. Change things to the National Football League. Straight up, Tim, 4 weeks have been completed, and there are some trends being set by some teams that I think are impressive and certainly disappointing. The most impressive team that you've seen or you've been tracking is?
The champs. Kansas City.
I know.
You know what I mean? Like, nobody talks about them. Nobody says anything about them. They're 4-0. You know what I mean? They lose their best receiver yesterday. They still win. Like, they just continue to churn things out. They just continue to produce. The Chargers are a pretty good team. You know what I mean? And it was a close game. They didn't look that great, but they know how to win. And that's what it comes down to. They know how to win. You can look at the Vikings. Yeah, the Vikings are 4-0. That's a nice surprise. Sam Darnold. Hey, nobody gave them a chance. They're 4-0. What have they proven, though? They've never proven anything. I don't know. What are the Eagles? Eagles were they 9-0 last year, and then they hit the skids?
11-11.
Oh yeah, were they
11-0, and then they beat the Bills in overtime, and then they lost almost every game.
Yeah, so like it's just hard. Like so the Vikings have been impressive. I thought the Bills were impressive until last night, but the Bills hadn't really played anybody. And then they got humbled last night by Baltimore.
I think they were their own worst enemies last night too. Like, I mean, I thought they came back and made that game an interesting game, and then that stupid flea flicker thing that they called. Like, what are you doing? Like, they could have made that game not even a one-score game. It could have been like 21-17, and all of a sudden we're not even talking about Henry's 87-yard. Like, I mean, give him his flowers. Like, I mean, he was really good. He run for 199.
Isn't it crazy? Right? You got 3 Bills running after a 240-pound guy, and they can't catch him.
That's why he's so special.
I know, but he doesn't even look like he's running that fast. You're just like, catch him.
He's a freak. He is a physical freak, always has been.
Crazy.
He's given the Bills, even when he was a member of the Titans. Do you remember that one famous time when he just sort of like just shoved off a defensive back? Like, he's a special guy. But, Baltimore are a good football team, right? But I will say this, they too, as you talk about KC, they've had their struggles in the postseason too, and have yet to prove it. And hosting, and that's what I think, as much as I can't stand Kansas City, as much as I can't stand 15, as much as I can't stand 87, last year was the year where I said, look, I will never like them. I will never be a Chiefs fan, but you go into Buffalo, a team that has actually beaten you a little bit in the regular season, and you win in Buffalo in the divisional. Then you go to Baltimore, who has the MVP, and then you beat them pretty, like even worse than the Bills in the AFC Championship, and you win the Super Bowl. Right? You're right. There's something about that team, and You're right, because I could ask that question about the most impressive, and a lot of people will say the Lions or the Vikings, and people will forget about the Chiefs.
Totally. You could say Tampa too. They looked good yesterday too.
Yeah, they
Baker
did.
Mayfield.
Most disappointing.
I would think Miami has to be in there a little bit, unfortunately, just because of injuries. I was going to even say Detroit, though. Like, Detroit had I know they're 2-1. They play tonight. We'll see what they do tonight. But they haven't looked great after everybody had them winning the Super Bowl. I thought the Jets. That's a bad loss yesterday.
So much hype.
That's a bad loss yesterday.
Come
against
on.
Denver. That's a bad loss.
Yeah, I don't care if it's raining.
Yeah.
Like, you're at home.
Yeah.
Come on.
You got to win that.
Aaron Rodgers, he stunk.
Yeah, he did stink. It's just one game, so they're 2-2. Like, this season isn't over there.
No.
But it's just, you're just like, maybe they're not good. You always have the Bengals, too. The Bengals are always slow starters. So they get a win, but who'd they beat? Carolina. So we'll see. I don't know. We'll see next week and what they bring. I'm not sure who they play next week, but those are the kind of the ones that jump out at me. Besides the ones like there's worse teams, but we knew they were going to be bad, like Jacksonville. Okay, sure. Who had anything with them? You know what? But Miami was supposed to be good. Miami was supposed to push the Bills, right? And the whole Tua situation is unfortunate.
You can't have Skylar Thompson as your quarterback, right?
So, but we'll see. The Jets are just, I don't know. They're a lightning rod.
There's so many people, and the Jets just irritated me, and all the people jumping on this. The Jets and Rodgers bandwagon, saying that they're the sneaky team that could win a Super Bowl because of their defense.
Yeah,
lost.
Well, you can't count him out, but he did not look good yesterday. No, and then the whole cadence thing, like him and the coach are not getting along.
No, what was that weird? Like 2 weeks ago, the sort of like, yay, my quarterback. And get out of
because I think he was upset because he's just like celebrating a touchdown. It's like, what are you doing, buddy? Like, come on, it's week 2. You know what I mean? So
then what does that say about your head coach?
That's what I mean. Like, there's friction there between the two of them. So, anyways,
hockey now.
Oh yeah.
Oh my goodness, hockey. Maple Leafs preseason is underway. Straight up, because I know you love the Maple Leafs. What story? And there is I think compared to any other preseason, this is the most storylines that I think are interesting the Maple Leafs. Yes.
I don't know. I'm not
really. The Maple Leaf fan is saying this.
No, I have no. It's the preseason. I have no interest until October the 9th. Actually, check that. I have no interest until April, whatever, to be totally honest. And that's spoken by a true Leaf fan, because we know they're going to be a good team. We know they're going to make the playoffs. What do you got then? Honestly, sure, there's the Nick Robertson, Eastern Cowan thing, who's going to make the team.
Well, some youth.
Okay, yeah, for sure. And that is a big decision, because he goes back down with the Knights again and has to be there all season. Mm-hmm. He hasn't looked great in the games. You know what I mean? Like, he hasn't looked great. Maybe they will give him a little flyer just to give him a little experience, because
Robertson, though.
But remember last year too, Robertson was good in the preseason, because it's the preseason. You know what I mean? You're playing against other guys that are like fourth liners, minor leaguers. You know what I mean?
Goaltending?
Yeah. It's just, I don't know. What do I think about the goaltending, or who's gonna? Well, Wall's getting. It's his net. Joseph Wall gets the net. He'll have the net. He'll have the net opening night. So, but preseason hockey is just like. You never really know, because everybody doesn't really get the playing time. Like Matthews, he scored 1 goal. You know what I mean? Like they don't really get going. They got 2 games left this week, and then let's get it going next week. A week Wednesday. I love that. I love the question. What was after the second game when they lost to Ottawa?
Oh, that Ottawa reporter.
Was it an Ottawa reporter?
Yeah, an Ottawa reporter.
Oh, was it? Okay, because I was wondering who it was, because I didn't recognize it. I just love the eye roll. It's just like,
yeah. So I don't know. I don't know. I often wonder in those situations, because she kind of asked a question, and I thought to myself, I wonder if she's like a news reporter. And with all due respect, a news reporter, sometimes in the sports situation, there's certain ways to ask questions and certain questions to ask and not to ask. And you're right, because Craig Berube could have really embarrassed her.
Yeah, and he didn't. He just he did kind of. It's the preseason. Let's not worry about it. I know it's Leaf Nation, but like, we are educated hockey fans that we know the preseason does not matter.
No, not when you're 0-2. Like,
No,
it just, it's sort of mean, especially the first two, right? Yeah. I think maybe the last two you kind of want to round yourself a little bit. At least one of those games where you play your veteran players. Yeah. Pat, you're ready. What are your thoughts there?
He'll make the team.
Really?
He'll make the team. They gave him the commitment. He'll make the team. So we'll see what he can do. Like, his skating is there, seems to be, anyways. You know what I mean? And that's the big thing in his game. He's a talented hockey player. He's just had some injuries, so we'll see what he brings. Interested in the defense, Tanev, Ekman Larson.
I like
what they can bring on the back end. Like, there's a little bit. They got some age, though, right? So we'll see. Like, they're going to be playing some big minutes. So
it takes a little pressure off Morgan Riley, right?
For sure. Yeah. But Morgan's not getting any younger either. So I'm excited for the season. But we just know they're going to be good. But can they be good and finish first in the Atlantic? That's what they need to do. This core has never finished first. They need to finish first, because then that first round playoff series would be that much easier, and it wouldn't be against Boston, or wouldn't be against Tampa, or against Florida, because Florida is going to be good again because they got everybody back. They need a good start. They need a good regular season, and then we'll see in the playoffs.
You kind of open Pandora's box when you make that statement there, Tim, because it's interesting to me. And I know we've kind of said this about the last couple of seasons, but for the first time, I actually think there's some truth to it. I don't know about Boston this year.
Yeah.
I don't know about Tampa Bay without Stamkos. Florida, I think we're pretty sure of, but they did lose a lot of people, as some Stanley Cup teams win the Stanley Cup and then they're stripped. I think Buffalo with Lindy Ruff there, I think they're making the playoffs this year.
You think Buffalo's making the playoffs?
I think Buffalo's
over Ottawa?
Yeah.
You think so?
Yeah, I do. Because you got those three teams. You have Detroit, you have Ottawa, and Buffalo.
Yeah.
And I think that all three of those teams are much better than they were 6 months ago. At the end of that season.
The goaltending situation in Boston, I don't know. He still hasn't signed yet, so there's that. Yeah, you're right. These teams will be coming at some point. Detroit almost made it last year.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Their goaltending situation, I don't know about the
Sabres before. Season before was 2 points.
They
got a lot of offensive talent.
I do,
and
but
two studs on the blue line now.
I know. Yeah.
And I think that's why I think a guy like Lindy coming in there.
But that could be your fandom for the Sabres.
Right? Absolutely. I'm not going to hide that. But I'm more excited with that team. And I think because Lindy is there to add some, I think I'll use the word loosely, some structure, right, that has not been there, and expectation. Like, I mean, come on, guy. Tim Thompson, you got to score some goals consistently. I want you to be in that 35 to 50 goal range for here to the rest of your career. There's no reason why you can't put the puck in the net. Like, I'm not going to say as much as Austin Matthews, but I think he has the same offensive abilities and talent and skill to be that guy, to be the Sabres leader.
Well, Matthews has always said that. One of the most talented scorers out there is Thompson.
Yep. Yeah, we're going to find out. President's Cup held in Montreal this weekend. 3 Canadians playing for the Internationals this year, yet the same result for Mike Weir and his international club. What is it, 13-1-1 now the record is up to, including 10 in a row for the mighty USA winning the President's Cup. Did it live up to the hype to you?
I was very entertained watching it. Very entertained. Going into the week, this has been like I remember having Mike on the show like 2 years ago when he was announced as the captain. So this has been a long time coming. Having a Canadian as a captain is a big deal. And having 3 Canadians, including all 3 of them being from Ontario too. So I was excited. Did I have expectations that we're going to win? No, because the Americans are so good. And then Thursday happens, and then you're just like, they're going to get embarrassed. Is it even going to get to Sunday? You know what I mean? That's what starts going through your mind. And then Friday happens.
The reverse?
You know what I mean? Like, the reverse sweep is just, that is something. I mean, my brother was there for the whole experience. And
wow.
Yeah, he said it was riveting to be in that world. Because remember Thursday too, the players were saying how quiet it was.
Yeah.
And they gave them nothing to cheer about. But it's Thursday too. At any tournament Thursday, people are still working. People come in for the weekend, and they came on the weekend. Yeah. So then Friday happened. So then I watched Saturday. I found Saturday thoroughly entertaining. I was at my parents' place, and my mom and dad are not golf fans, and it was on, and they were watching. There were some fantastic golf shots. Mackenzie Hughes had some great shots.
The Kim from that that side bank shot up and down, that up and down and into the hole.
But they just couldn't finish.
Yeah.
And a bit of this has to go on Mike Weir. And some of his choosing on some of the groupings that he sent back out on Saturday afternoon. It was puzzling to see the exact same groups that lost on Saturday morning go back out on Saturday afternoon.
Yes, there was.
I did. They were mentioned that in the broadcast, and I did find it a little bit puzzling for some reasons. Putting the two Canadians together who didn't look good on Saturday morning, send them back out there again after a fog delay where you have some decent players, Jason Day sitting on the sidelines. So you have that. So the Americans are just so good, and they come through and win on Saturday. But then you have players who've been sitting on the sidelines all day Saturday, coming in cold on Sunday and expected to play and produce individually. So I found it a little puzzling in some of those questions, but I was very entertained. It was a bummer that it wasn't closer going into Sunday, because you knew the Americans head to head with so many individual talents and so many top golfers that they were going to they're going to pull out on top. World number 2, you know what I mean? Like true. But I'm always interested, why do the Americans dominate the President's Cup so much compared to where they don't do so in the Ryder Cup? Why is that?
And that's a great question, Tim, because I always think to myself, okay, it's an international field in the President's Cup, which I think should be stronger than, quote, just Team Europe.
Yeah.
Right? For the Ryder Cup, where they've had Team Europe have had tremendous success in that tournament, in the Ryder Cup. And I know there's way more history and it's been going on for much longer. But you would think your pool of players, maybe that's where the captaincy becomes so key.
Does it have to do with match play, though, too? Does it, because European players, because the Ryder Cup is so ingrained in them, they do play this match stuff more often, and they're able to live up to the hype of match play and in those moments? Because there were certain moments, like Patrick Cantlay, he was a killer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? On that Saturday when he drained that putt, no international player could nail a putt like that. Yes. You know what I mean? Yeah. To really saying we're going to win this. And they made some great shots, but when it came to it, they were not able to make the shots that the States did, and that's why the States is dominant.
Going on this Saturday, you're right. The clutch shots were all dropped by the Americans. Quick little question on this: what do you think about the Kim not getting the short putter, or they didn't give him the I forget the word.
Oh yeah, the gimme.
The gimme. Yeah. What do you think about that? That was funny.
I know, but I don't understand the gimmies when it comes to match. Who does decide that? Yeah. Is it the two players?
Yeah, the two players will say, yeah, that's yours.
Or is it the captains involved?
No, that's the two players.
I know, but why is that only in match play and not in regular golf? Because
that's true. It's not in regular golf.
No, it's not in regular golf. Even my parents were saying, why do they give them gimmies when they can't do that in regular? And what is a gimme? Is it a club length? I'm not tapped into the golf world as much as some to wonder why.
There was pure anger on it, by both sides. How could you not give me that? And play it out, dude. We want you to play it out.
Yeah,
right.
And they should play it out because it means a lot.
You're right, and it carried over for a couple of holes too. And then there was, of course, the this going on.
I was it was an amazing shot, but it was a little early. If you ended the match like that, you still had a couple more holes, man. But that was a great shot.
The Raptors have announced that prior to their game on November the 2nd, Vince Carter will be the first in franchise history to have his number retired and his jersey raised to the rafters at Scotiabank Arena. I'll start with this. Is it the most complicated relationship between Toronto sports fans and the player itself?
It's just polarizing, because this is the reason I'm on this podcast, because I do not think his number should be retired into the rafters, and I am not the only one. But I talk to a lot of people that they think it should be, and this is just a good, hearty sports debate about yes and no. spurned us. And I say us because I was a Vince Carter fan. Mm-hmm. There's many people that are of my vintage that were of the young age that didn't know basketball all that well. He came onto the scene and he made us aware and educate us on what a player can do. And what he did was something like I've never, ever seen before. And I probably never, ever will. Cheering for a team and cheering for a one man and what he did for a team. And put the Raptors on the map, put basketball on the map in Canada. And I understand all of that. And that, for those reasons, he should be up in the rafters. It's what he did after that he shouldn't be. And he quit. And you cannot be a quitter. You cannot quit on your team. You cannot say, I'm not playing anymore, I want out, and then get traded. And you get traded, and it's one of the worst trades ever, definitely in Raptors history, and put them back many, many years. So all of that, you don't deserve to be in the rafters when you go through that. Does time heal things? For sure it does. Do I have the same feelings towards Vince Carter that I had back then? Definitely not. It was 19 years ago. I am over it. Does he deserve? One of the main reasons that I don't think he should be the first one. I understand it's the 30th anniversary of the club. He is... If you look at it from an NBA standpoint, would he be the most popular NBA player to ever play there? Sure. Is he the greatest Raptor? Far from it. And we all know who is the greatest Raptor of all time. That is Kyle Lowry. And Kyle Lowry should be the first number into the rafters.
Well, I mean, obviously, Kyle's still playing, so that can't happen. DeMar DeRozan, I think, deserves tremendous consideration as well, too.
Sure. Didn't win.
Sure. Well,
don't you have to win?
Yeah, Kyle didn't win before another guy showed up to push us over the top, right?
Yeah.
Right? Like, I mean, you could have traded Kyle and kept DeMar and
he almost did get traded.
And added that same player, and I still think we would have won. Kawhi is that much of a difference maker, and who knows what would have happened if he stayed for future years? We'll never know.
Well, he would have played half the games.
That's all right, though. He also would have never paid for a dinner either. Kawhi and dine.
Yeah. So would you say Kawhi is a more important Raptor than Kyle?
He's the most important Raptor. We would have never won a championship without him.
You think okay, so you would put him. He was the difference maker. I am not talking you down off of that. I do respect Kawhi because what he did with the 4-bounce shot, I got that in my house. You know what I mean?
That was great too. But what he did against Milwaukee was even better. And he was injured. He was not healthy, and he was unbelievable.
Yeah. So they would not have won if
he was the difference maker.
I could agree with that.
He was the guy. He was the missing piece, and that's why I think Masai Ujiri going against the grain and trading someone like DeMar DeRozan. Mm-hmm. Who to this day could walk in this studio and get a standing ovation for the kind of guy he is, the commitment that he had to the city, all the things that you kind of saying against Vince Carter. Mm-hmm. DeMar DeRozan is that guy. And remember, came here as a young 18-year-old guy from Compton. Great player. And that's why I give Masai this credit, because he traded this guy, a face of a franchise, for that guy, and that guy taught us. We always hear get over the hump. That guy got us over the hump.
But they wouldn't have won. They wouldn't have won with the two of them, DeMar and Kyle.
No, well, I mean
they wouldn't have won.
Well,
now would the Raptors have won their title in 2019 if Kyle wasn't on the team?
If Kyle wasn't on the team?
Wasn't on the team.
No, because he was the perfect. He's a point guard. He was the facilitator.
Yeah,
he was the
guy,
backbone, right?
He was the heart and soul of the team.
He was the heart and soul in terms of, I would think, in terms of facilitating, being that bulldog defensive kind of guy. But in the NBA, you need studs. You need a stud, and Kyle's not a stud. He's a good guy to have on your team to support the stud, and that's what I thought is that. Kawhi was the stud, and we had other guys like Pascal Siakam. Remember Pascal Siakam playing on the second team? And then we saw what happened years later when we gave the mantle to Pascal. Couldn't handle it. Just not that guy. There are only a couple of those guys in the NBA, and Kawhi, especially in that year, I think was the guy. And he was angry too, right?
Where are you with Vince, though?
Vince... Everything you said there is correct. Matt, remember how happy we were Remember, and people forget this, that not every Raptor game was on TV. The fact that we were on NBC.
For sure.
Our Raptors were on NBC playing the Knicks. First player to get us over the top, to get us into the playoffs. I thought that the organization is to be just as blamed for what happened at the end as Vince being sour. I think the organization was poor in the way they handled it. At the time, they had a general manager, which was not a great general manager, and the fact that his history before and after in terms of being a general manager and Rob Babcock just messed it all up and panicked, right? Because he could have handled that situation differently. Now, we have these stories about Vince saying, we're going to run an L screen 4, telling other players. But that was him being a complete baby, and I agree with you on that.
The thing that
right?
there's going to be young kids that see that jersey go up into the rafters and just say he was the greatest Raptor ever, but they don't. You have to put that story in there that he did quit on the team. You know what I mean? Like, that is part of his story. And you just have to remember that when you look up and you see that 15 at Scotiabank, because I know I will, and I just want other people to just realize that,
yeah.
And it's just not a good lesson for you just can't be quitting on your team. You know what I mean? I know it wasn't the best situation, but you still go out there and play your heart out, because when he got traded to the Nets, he was scoring what? 14, 15 points a game.
They went to the finals.
They went to the finals. He was scoring 27 points a game. You know what I mean? Right? Like, it just can't happen, and that's what I'll always think
it was
about.
an ugly situation. But I still think when I look at that, when that 6.5 year or 7 year stint with the Raptors, it was one of the greatest, one of the most spectacular. I mean,
fun.
Again, put us on the map. Educated people that were hockey people, allowed basketball to become a sport that gained respect, not only in just Toronto, but across the country, because of the fact that the Grizzlies took off, and Vince was electric. The 2000 dunk, and I know it was a dunk contest, but it was spectacular.
It was one of the greatest things I've ever seen in my life.
I always, for some reason, I always think of Shaq going with the whole thing, going with his camera.
I've never seen anything like it, and I don't think I'll ever see it like that again.
It'll never be a better dunk contest.
Never, ever.
They keep trying, but it'll just never happen. He had this infectious smile about him. The fact that he was a North Carolina guy. I hate to say this, especially as a black man, well-spoken, well-dressed, a guy that people, and I'm going to say white Canadians, can say he's a model guy.
And you're going to see him. He's a broadcaster now. You know what I mean? And going forward, he's going to be, for years and years and years, he's going to be on NBA telecasts.
Played for 4 decades.
Yeah.
Played for 4 decades.
I understand it all. I understand it all. It's just like, I just can't get behind it. I just can't.
You can't forgive and forget?
I can forgive.
Yeah.
I can't forget.
The Indiana Fever and rookie phenom Caitlin Clark were eliminated in the WNBA quarterfinals. Swept, actually. There are 4 teams remaining, all with amazing storylines. You got Las Vegas looking to be the first team in WNBA history looking to win a title. They're playing New York Liberty, who are just off the charts right now. Connecticut Sun and Minnesota Lynx. Will you still watch the WNBA playoffs?
I'm a casual fan of the WNBA. I should be watching it more, because I think it based around my viewers on the morning show, and I would always be putting Caitlin Clark highlights out, because a casual fan would know Caitlin Clark. With Caitlin Clark not being in the playoffs anymore, something would have to happen for it because I only get so much time. I don't get 6 minutes like somebody next to me. I get less time. So for it to make it into my sportscast, something special would have to happen. So I'll keep an eye on it. It's kind of cool with Spike Lee, was jawing back and forth with I forget her name, the American player yesterday. So that's kind of neat. But yeah, I won't be a hardcore.
Okay, well, okay, quick question. You did it because Caitlin Clark was. You showed how, because you did, and you did. I was impressed how much you did.
Yeah.
You did show. But isn't it incumbent upon us, you say because you don't think your audience would know, Sabrina Ionescu, who went toe-to-toe against Steph Curry in a three-point contest. Nope. And I could go on and on about the other players that are out there. Aja Wilson, who is three-time WNBA MVP. Like, shouldn't we as media, and I'm not just pointing you out, isn't that incumbent to us to teach the audience about other players other than Caitlin Clark? And I think this is what the discussion was earlier in the year, and why so many of these other players who've been around for a little bit saying, well, hold on a second, we've been out here battling as well too. So because I truly believe that the WNBA playoffs will pretty much go into oblivion for this same reason.
Yeah, but they also, for them to get mad at Caitlin Clark, Caitlin Clark just made them a whole lot of money.
I'm not saying mad at Caitlin Clark, mad at the media.
Oh, because, well, here's the thing. I'm talking me personally, because the fall is a tough time. You know what I mean? There is so many things happening. You got the NBA. They're getting training camps going, so they're coming back. You have the NHL coming back. You have the NFL. You have CFL. You got the OHL. So, like, locally for let's say my broadcast, there's only so many things I can talk about, and that is well down the list unless something monumental happens. It has to be a special moment for it to make.
Bridget Carleton. She's Canadian
for sure, and we showed her what was it, last week, the week before, when she hit the buzzer beater in that game. Well, I will always show something like that if there's something special that happens.
Sure.
I'm just not going to show highlights to show highlights, though. Now, when the Toronto WNBA team comes, that's a different story.
Right.
That's a local story that I'll dedicate some time to. But for when it comes to a North American story, it has to be something special.
It's going to be interesting. I'm really curious to see, and I think this will play itself out. We will see the numbers. But there are people talking about this, right, that take, well, hold on a second now. She was an incredible story. She deserved all the attention that she got. She was a Rookie of the Year. She broke so many records. I will never take anything away from Caitlin Clark and her ability to play basketball and be a model face of the sport, because whether she wants it or not, she's become that, but I think there are other faces of the sport as well too that deserve some recognition, and I think it's also incumbent upon the media to find those storylines, as we always do about pretty much every other sport, especially when it comes to playoffs, because we're down to the Final Four. We'll find out, though. We'll see. The numbers will prove itself out, right? And then we always tend to go the way the numbers sort of shape it out. Tim, always fun.
Yeah, buddy.
Always fun.
Yeah,
always
man.
Laying it out. I know I'm going to get honest answers from you. I know you're not going to BS me. You're not going to powder puff it, right?
That's why it's fun, and that's why sports is great, right? Yeah. Because everybody can have their own attitude and their own opinions, and then you can just hash it out and then have a laugh about it, and on to the next. So that's why I love sports.
Yeah, I tell you, and it is. Whoever said water cooler conversation,
for sure,
they were really bang on. Yeah. I see you have a new. Actually, before we leave here, I want to say congratulations to you.
Oh yeah, for what?
You're now a local.
Oh yeah,
you're now a local.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, he's a Toronto guy, and but I will give Tim always a tremendous amount of credit as a quote Toronto guy, immersed himself in our community, doing all kinds of things. I think maybe you're when you were an adventure reporter guy before.
Really tapped into that.
You really tapped into all what our beautiful area is all about. And now that you're a resident, I think it's awesome.
Yeah, I never really liked to talk about that, to be totally honest, when I was coming from Toronto, because that's like family stuff, and we're in Toronto because my wife works in Toronto, so that's why we were, and because it's like Big Brother type stuff. When
you
it comes
know
to
how
Hamilton.
Hamiltonians are.
No, that's what I mean. I know how they are. Like even when somebody did ask where I lived and I said Toronto, they were like, "What are you doing there?" You know what I mean? Well, it's just like it's family stuff. But family stuff's changed, and we made our way this way. So we've settled in nicely, and the kids are loving their new school and loving the house and being in Hamilton, and it's been really good so far, and nice welcoming from the community too.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. When I heard you were doing that, I remember you told me, or like, I couldn't help but smile. I was like, awesome, because I think so many people that have worked at this station for so many years, well before us, that they were home Hamiltonians, or they made Hamilton their home, and again, maybe it's small man syndrome or whatever what you want to say about us here as Hamiltonians, and it's kind of like we don't want to hear about Toronto, right?
It's just like, let's say, like when the Raptors compared to the rest of the NBA. You know what I mean? You want a little bit of kudos, and it's a wonderful area, so we're very happy being settled in.
Thanks for joining me, bud.
Thanks, buddy.
Good stuff.
To the next one.
That's your Sportsline podcast for the day. And as just seen and heard, we love talking sports and we love debating sports a little bit too, but it can be done the right way. If you do know of an athlete, team, or event to promote, the Sportsline podcast, you want to hear from you. Please hit the thumbs up, like, and subscribe button. And if you have something to say, of course, you just heard it. We want to hear from you. For the wonderful people that make the Sportsline podcast possible on a daily basis, thank you so very much, and we'll see you